In this documentary, we take a look at student opinions and a professional opinion on homelessness. What is the cause? Is there something that can be done? Is something already being done? This documentary short is just a tip of the iceberg as we open up the question for debate: homelessness in Nottingham. Nottingham has many services that support rough sleepers, such as Framework Housing Association, the Friary, and Emmanuel House. Framework operates in Nottinghamshire, Lincolnshire, Derbyshire and Sheffield, covering different types of support that people may need. One place in Nottingham is the Wellbeing Hub. We reached out to a member of one of these organisations for a bit of an insider opinion.
My name's Moya. I'm a service manager in a mental health service in Nottingham City. I've lived in Nottingham for about 10 years, more than, and I've worked in support work for about 10 years.
Over the last 10 years, what do you think is the biggest change in the support sector?
I think it's difficult to give one answer to that, really, because I've moved around in a lot of different roles. I've worked in a lot of different services, and I think one of the things that's common to all of those services is that we've seen a lot more people coming through services who've got much more complex needs. So people who've come in who haven't just had one issue that they've been dealing with, but people who've had a lot of issues all at one time. So people who are homeless, but also people who are struggling with their mental health, who are struggling with employment, who are struggling with their finances, with addiction, all of that kind of stuff. And I think that over the course of the last 10 years, I think that the number of those cases has become higher.
Following on to my next question, do you think the number of homeless people are rising or reducing, and why?
I think they are. I mean, you'd have to go and check the stats, because obviously this is just anecdotal and it's difficult, I think, when you're just one person, because it's difficult to know whether they are increasing for definite or whether I just think they are because I'm noticing them more because that's the sector that I work in. But I think you can really see a trend, like things in society are getting more and more difficult for people. Things are becoming a lot more unstable, things are becoming a lot more uncertain, like the cost of living is really high, there's a lot less margin for things to go wrong, and there's a lot less support in society, like services like the ones that I work in are having their funding cut quite drastically, or the money doesn't go as far because things become more expensive. So the support network for those people becomes less and less. So I think, combined with what I'm saying earlier, if people are coming in who've got quite complex needs, and then there aren't the body of services to support those people kind of end up falling into this kind of pit where there's no support, and things have got to a really desperate point where it's really difficult to put enough stuff in place to support them to get them back out of that situation.
According to an article posted on the Framework Housing Association website, rough sleeping in Nottingham has increased by 41% in the last year alone. That claims to be due to the impact of housing and cost of living crises that is facing people across Nottingham, but also the rest of the UK. Mental health plays a big part in the cause of homelessness, which is likely why many of these charities and organisations in Nottingham have mental health support. We asked students their opinion on the crisis that only seems to be getting worse.
I think that it's tragic that we live in a society where people can't afford to live in homes and have to live on the street. It's one of the basic foundations of literally anything is having a home, and when people can't even afford that, it says a lot about the state of where we are.
Do you think homelessness gets enough awareness?
I think so. I think a lot of people are aware of homelessness and aware that it is a problem, but not everyone's aware of what they can do to help homeless people and how to fix that situation.
If anything, you see more anti-homeless things than you do raising awareness, like anti-homeless architecture. Even in Nottingham, there's benches that you can see have been built to stop people sleeping on them, and it's not great.
Do you think it's easy for people who are homeless to turn to substances?
I think it's easy to be able to do that, to kind of distract yourself from the situation you're in. But I guess it depends on the person and how money is for them. I think it can also be a vicious cycle that can keep them stuck where they are. Lots of people won't help you if you're taking drugs, or they'll make you go cold turkey on them if you want to go to a shelter. And that's not easy for everyone, and it will keep them stuck on the streets rather than helping them.
Do you think people are aware enough of the charities and organisations around Nottingham and the UK that help homeless people?
No, no, I don't think so. Because me personally, I barely know anything about like any homeless charities or anything that would help them in any way.
In terms of gender, do you think that men are more affected by homelessness?
Yes, I definitely think that men are more affected. I see a lot more homeless men than I do homeless women in a lot of cases. So I think yeah, they are.
Why do you think that is?
I'm not even sure. I guess maybe men find it harder to reach out more when they need help. So when they get into certain situations, it just gets worse and worse until they get that end result.
Have you ever been in a position where you've almost been homeless?
I wouldn't say almost homeless, but I've been in a position where I was extremely poor growing up. And from that experience, I can see how easy it is for things to go wrong in your life, to not be in a place where you can carry on going down the right path. So, for example, if you don't have enough money to pay for one thing and then something else happens, you never know what that thing is in your life that's going to push you off the edge, where suddenly you can't afford to pay rent and then you are kicked out. And then once you don't have a fixed address, you can't apply for jobs and things like that. So it's like a never ending cycle. This was when I was a lot younger, though. So my mum was the one who was super poor and we were just kind of dealing with it. But I think it's made me very empathetic or sympathetic, either or, which one's the right one, to people that are in that position.
We noticed when conducting interviews with students and generally asking people whether they were aware of services around Nottingham, a large proportion claimed they didn't know about such services, but claimed that services like these are incredibly important and are essentially a lifeline in the most critical point in people's lives. As Nottingham's rough sleepers crisis continues, and with a general election just around the corner, and a political shift towards a new government, will things improve? Only time will tell.